this webinar this afternoon, co-hosted by EATRIS, CERN, Siemens Healthineers, and Waldebron Research Hospital. It's a real pleasure to welcome you here on a very interesting subject, but also quite a complex one. Today we're going to be talking about federated learning as an architectural solution to solving the big data issue of being able to train machine learning algorithms with large data sets. And I think the idea today is not just for you to learn from us, from the experience that our organizations are having in this process, but also from us for us to learn from you. So please be as engaged in this webinar as possible. Ask us questions, but also there's going to be polls all along the session today. Do please answer them. We need to hear from you as well, because we're trying to also learn and understand the value of federated learning solutions from the various different players here. My name is Anton Ussi. I work at EATRIS together with my colleague Sara, and we have several very illustrious speakers who will join us today, including Luigi Serio from CERN, Carlos Molina from Waldebron Research Hospital, and Hanno from the Siemens Healthineers organization. So today's agenda. So we're going to start with my illustrious colleague Sara, who is the scientific program manager of AI and imaging for EATRIS and has been driving a lot of our foray into this very important space. She'll be talking about the importance for multidisciplinary research in order to get these towards the clinic. And then afterwards, we're going to hear from Professor Carlos Molina, who is the director of the stroke unit and the brain hemodynamics unit at the Waldebron Research Hospital, and all the amazing work that's being done there. Also, there's some exciting projects that Carlos is coordinating. And then Luigi, our amazing data scientist and engineer at AI at CERN, will be helping us with understanding federated learning and its applications and how, in fact, the small world of particle physics is also supporting health research as well. And then finally, we're going to end with Hanno, who's going to talk about how artificial intelligence and how industry is looking at this technology, utilizing it, and what the gaps are that industry can support there. Hanno's the global head of secondary stroke prevention at Siemens Healthineers. Right. That being said, I am finished. Let's go and get into the interesting parts of the session. Amadeo, I believe you're going to put some questions out to us after Sara's talk, right? So that's going to be the first questions, or do we have the first set of questions now already?
The first set of questions, thank you very much, Anton, for that kind introduction. The first set of questions will come now. So this is just a welcome introduction question to gauge who we have in the audience. As a reminder, this will be anonymous.
Yeah,
so
super.
I'll launch that now.
Yeah, thank you very much. So do please answer these questions. We do want to hear from you. We want to learn from you as well as the audience and the people who potentially might be using these technologies or see benefit in these technologies in the future. So I'm going to give you just a few moments then to answer this first question. Very good. That's already a wonderful start. Thank you, folks. Thanks. It's very important that it's participatory today. So now, with any further ado, I am going to ask Sara to take over. Sara, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anton, for the nice introduction, and welcome everybody today. It's a real pleasure to be here and guide you through translational medicine and multidisciplinary collaboration. So today with you, I would like to discuss how multidisciplinary collaboration can really accelerate digitalization in healthcare, ensuring that AI solutions are not only innovative, but also impactful in real-world settings. And to start, I would like, to give you a definition of translational medicine to make you familiar with the meaning of translational medicine. So usually it refers to the process of turning scientific discoveries into medical treatments or diagnostic tools that benefit patients. And translational medicine, it's really about ensuring that the knowledge generated in the research labs by amazing scientists like you can make it into clinical settings where they can have a real impact on patient care. However, here comes the but, the process faces significant challenges, often described as the so-called valley of death. And this word basically highlights the critical gap between early scientific discoveries and their successful translation into real-world applications, such as novel therapeutics or medical technologies. And what happens, sadly, is that many promising innovations are stuck in this phase due to several challenges. Reproducibility, of course, you want your finding to be validated across diverse population and settings in order to be adopted and then integrated into clinical settings. You want clinical relevance. You want to make sure that innovation that you're working on address a real unmet medical need. And then, of course, regulatory aspects. Nowadays, it's very complicated, especially in the field of medical devices, to navigate the complex regulations ecosystem. And this may cause some delays in your progress. And then about intellectual property, you may want to balance IP protection with collaboration in order to attract investment, but also ensure that your innovation is really innovative. And then funding, especially when you have to move from basic research to clinical trial, you need some incentives there to make your work progress. And then technical expertise, of course, multidisciplinary skills are needed in this phase because you can't do everything by yourself, but what you need to know is when it comes the time to ask for specialized expertise. And then, of course, collaboration. So strong partnership between the main players, academia, industry, and clinicians and patients are essential in order to translate science into patient care. So here comes, is where EATRIS plays a vital role. So EATRIS is the European research infrastructure for translational medicine, and we bring together resources, facilities, and services to support cutting-edge applied research. So the mission of EATRIS is to deliver high socioeconomic value by acting as a bridge between research and society, with a focus on high-quality precision medicine, including AI-enabled diagnostics. So EATRIS is a non-profit membership organization, meaning that our shareholders are the member countries, and we have thus far 14 member countries in our network. We bring together more than 150 academic medical centers and research hospitals that are specialized in one or more scientific and technology platform, and in particular, advanced therapy medicinal products, biomarkers, imaging and tracing, small molecule, and vaccine inflammation and immunomonitoring. So EATRIS offers a comprehensive translational research paradigm that bridges the gap between scientific discoveries and clinical applications. And we leverage advanced technology platform in order to gain biological insights, integrate them with clinical observation, with the aim to enhance our understanding of the underlying mechanism of that specific disease. And our core activities include offering access to experts and facilities, develop novel research tools, provide education and training, especially educate the next generation of translational imaging scientists, and improve academia public-private collaboration. Today we would like to basically explore how artificial intelligence can make it into clinical practice. So it is important to recognize that there are many challenges along the way involved in developing effective AI solutions for clinical decision making. These tools have, of course, the potential to improve patient care by enhancing, for instance, diagnostic accuracy, improving patient treatment pathways, but they come with several fundamental questions that we must address in order to move your product forward. So to implement AI in clinical settings, for instance, we must consider if we're really addressing an unmet need and how we can ensure that. This requires, of course, an understanding of the differences between technology push and market pull. Data access, how can I safely access data from thousands of patients necessary to train my algorithm? And additionally, is this data really suitable for my analysis, for my intended purpose? And also, how much is my algorithm robust and capable of analyzing complex data sets, and then the development, especially when it comes to regulatory aspects, it is essential in translational medicine, and in this space in particular, to do the right things and doing that thing right. And then the implementation. So how do I identify the right partners for implementing my solution? What kind of business model I should adopt, commercial or no profit? So those are fundamental questions that needs to be addressed. And in particular, when it comes to healthcare, one of the main important challenges is that how can analyze safely distributed data. And this is also where federated learning comes into play. Federated learning is an innovative approach that allows to analyze data locally, train algorithms locally at the home institution, in this case, the hospital. So instead of transferring sensitive patient data from the native sources to a centralized hub, we analyze the data locally, and then we build a global parameter on the central server. And this method, of course, allows to gain valuable insight on patient data without moving the data from the native sources. So I will leave the technical details to my colleague Luigi from CERN, but with this message, with this slide, I would like to convey especially one message, which is the multidisciplinarity of translational medicine. CERN developed a federated learning system to assess the structural integrity of the accelerator network and recognize the potential for broader application. And then CERN approached the EATRIS to help adapt this solution for the medical context. And this collaboration represents a novel model that leverages CERN's knowledge in applied research and technology, especially in artificial intelligence, together with EATRIS expertise in translational medicine. And together we are poised to enhance healthcare and patient outcomes through this collaboration. In particular, this is an example of a collaboration that we have in place as a successful European project, which is TrustStroke. TrustStroke is a European-funded project that is developing a trustworthy and privacy-preserving AI-based platform designed to support clinicians, patients, and caregivers in managing both acute and chronic phases of ischemic stroke. The objectives of TrustStroke are ambitious, and they include developing a federated learning network, created integrated, trustworthy, and validated AI solutions, establishing a framework for patient empowerment and communication, and also validated the performance of the platform, with the ultimate goal to improve the stroke patient pathway. In this project, EATRIS plays a crucial role, and we are leading efforts in regulatory acceptability, exploitation, and sustainability, and also contributed to data management and trustworthiness. And in the TrustStroke project, we are not alone. We collaborate with 13 amazing European partners, including patient organizations, academia, industry, and healthcare. And this initiative is led by Vall d'Hebron Research Institute. And today we have our principal investigator, Dr. Carlos Molina, with us. And I'm sure it will guide us through the details of the project. And additionally, we have 3 hospitals specialized in stroke care from Italy, Belgium, and Slovenia, together with the patient organization SAFE. And we collaborate with CERN using their caffeine federated learning platform. So TrustStroke aims to deliver one of the first operational platform in Europe for training machine learning algorithms using a federated learning approach for healthcare applications. So it's really a high impactful project. And EATRIS is actively involved in several European projects aimed at enable trustworthy power solution in Europe. For example, we have the UK project where we are developing a platform, Cancer Image Europe, that allows researchers, clinicians, and innovators to access a diverse pool of cancer images, facilitating the benchmarking, training, and validation of AI-driven technologies. And we also participate in the scientific advisory board of the CADIX project that is focused on promoting the uptake of artificial intelligence and data-driven diagnostic tools in daily clinical healthcare delivery. Artificial intelligence, and with this I would like to conclude, is a real transformative approach in science and technology. But to make a real societal impact, it must be coupled with engineering expertise, with specialized expertise. Achieving this requires, of course, multidisciplinary collaboration, and importantly, the project must, the idea, the innovation must be driven by the user need, in particular patients and clinicians, rather than solely research and technology developers. So aligning all these stakeholders together around the patient will ensure to create effective healthcare solutions that will improve patient outcomes. There are, of course, many gatekeepers along the way, but the power of the multidisciplinary collaboration will help us moving forward for the for the benefit of patients. And I think with that, I would like to thank our funders and partners, and I will give the floor to you, Anton. Thanks.
Super. Thanks very much, Sara, for the very interesting overview of the EATRIS activities. Right, I invite the audience to drop questions into the chat at any time. But otherwise, what we will continue now. So if I'm not mistaken, we're going to move straight into the next session, which is going to be a talk from Carlos. Carlos, we really look forward to hearing from you, talking about really about the challenges of stroke treatment per se, and your experience as a clinician and researcher in that space. As the co-founder of a company involved in the space, Nora Health, and as a member of the board of the directors of the European Stroke Organization, and your role in the lead of the stroke units at Vall d'Hebron, I think you have a lot of very interesting things to tell us. So please take it away. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anton, for the nice introduction. So I'm Carlos Molina, stroke neurologist, and I'm the coordinator of different European funded projects, included Transstroke. So let's talk about the challenges in the stroke treatment optimization. Let's talk about the stroke. So stroke is the major cause of death and severe disability worldwide. We are talking about one of the major killers in the world, one of the big five. Actually, most European citizens, especially women, they will die from stroke. The first cause of death in women in Spain and Europe is stroke. So you can see here the stroke pathway of care is a very complex process of care. It's not just the hospital. It's not when the patient has a stroke and show it in the emergency room. It's more than that. So it's the pre-hospital part, in the ambulance and the patient's home. So everything starts there, and then the patient has to be transferred rapidly to the emergency room to receive the proper treatment. And then in the hospital setting, receive all the care, start the rehabilitation and the secondary prevention strategy. And then it comes the transition to the post-hospital care. And we need to prevent recurrent stroke in an efficient way, and prevent also cardiovascular death, which is related to stroke. So in the meantime, we have different challenges and problems, not only the rapid access to these patients to early treatment, for these patients to early treatment, but also early and accurate diagnosis, not only the ER, but also in the pre-hospital setting to prepare the patients to arrive to the hospital in the optimal conditions. Also, patient stratification, not all the patients are the same. We have severe stroke, moderate stroke, and minor stroke with different patterns of source of embolize, different patterns of treatments. So we need also to identify therapeutic targets to improve treatment response and outcome of these patients. Also, another challenge is the personalized diagnosis and management. Personalized means we need data to identify the proper patient for the proper treatment. And for this, we need to an accurate source of data. Also, the management and real-time monitoring nowadays is possible to remotely monitor patients and obtain data to improve patients' care at long term. And finally, we need to build that accurate and reliable predictive models to predict the risk of early neurological deterioration, early readmission after a stroke, poor or good outcome, and mortality. It will be super helpful for clinicians and healthcare professionals and the healthcare environment, this complex ecosystem, to have this data. How to get this data is the main challenge. So as you can see in this complex environment, we need to integrate different data sources from different patients, stakeholders, other stakeholders, including physicians, also payers. It's really complex. And then for managing this high volume of data, we need artificial intelligence. What are the potentials of artificial intelligence in stroke? Well, it has been demonstrated that it potentially can reduce workload for healthcare professionals, also minimize human errors and diagnosis and prescription, also may optimize treatment selection. This is what we call patient stratification for the right patient for the right treatment, and ensuring the effective use of high quality data, this high volume of data, multi-source data. So this is, as you can see, how traditionally the AI has been incorporated in stroke care and as well as in other cardiovascular conditions. We have different input data from different sources, different streamers generate data that have to be integrated in the same system for the evaluation to build up predictive models. So as you can see here, we have the electronic medical records of the CT scan, MRI, the cardiac evaluation, genomic, proteomics, so on and so forth. And also we need to train properly different techniques of AI, including machine learning, deep learning, all well known. And also with this base of validation of these techniques in a retrospective, prospective, and proof of concept sector. And then finally can be applied to patients. The big problem here is that we need a high volume of data. And traditional hospitals used to share the data in big data lakes, of course, exposed for hacking and malwares. And the solution for that is keeping the data in the hospital and decentralize the training of algorithms. So stop sharing data. So federated learning provides us a unique opportunity to explore the decentralized training of algorithms using a large and diverse data sets, enabling and fostering collaboration and multimodal training, among multiple hospitals, ensuring data security and patient privacy. So this is the sense of Trust Stroke project that was mentioned before by Sara. So it's a multinational collaboration with three main hospital stroke centers in Europe, Baden, Leuven, and Gemelli, and other technological partners and regulatory partners that are essential in this endeavor. So this is how the list of partners looks like, including user experience, to analyze the experience and the interaction interface with the technology throughout this stroke care pathway. So Trust Stroke is a modular solution. You can see here we identify the needs and patients, the data we need, and we need data standardization, proper data collection, not only for the retrospective part, but also for the prospective part and the proof of concept. We need to develop trustworthy AI models and infrastructure, which is the federated learning for training algorithm. But at the local level, we need two different servers, one for the federated learning and the other one for the local server that is going to be used to integrate the data and also start training the algorithms locally. Also, we need a way to analyze this data without sharing data. There's a centralized data analytic and communication. And for all of that, we need a regulatory framework that is essential, as mentioned by Sara before. So these are the questions, simple questions that we want to answer in Trust Stroke. The first one in this value proposal, the first one is what's the risk of early neurological worsening, deterioration in different categories of patients? What is the personalized risk of early readmission after hospital discharge? What is the risk of good or poor clinical outcome adjusted by the stroke severity on admission? And what is the risk of recurrent stroke? These are simple, they look like simple questions. They are not that simple. So we need high value, high amount of data, large data sets, and very diverse data sets to respond this question. This slide shows the data flow, how we capture the data. It's easy to see, oh, okay, I have a large data set, but how we collect this data accurately in a reliable way. So you can see here, we have the information from the electronic and medical records, out of the clinical data, lab data, proteomic, genomics, so on and so forth. But which is tricky is to integrate the data from the pre-hospital part and the post-hospital part, because we suffer this lack of interoperability of the IT systems. So we need, for the pre-hospital setting, we have a very strong now integration of different applications into the hospital solution, so we can just capture some of the data. Ideally, we need more accurate data to be integrated in hospitals. But for patient follow-up, we can integrate wearables and patients' information throughout the follow-up using this platform, NORA. All this information from the hospitalization and post-hospital care is integrated in the local server where the algorithms are going to be trained initially locally, and then with the outputs of this, not the data, the outputs of these algorithms are trained in the federated network to create a common model, a global model. So this is how the structure of TrustStroke look like. You can see, looks like you can see the three hospitals. The algorithms are training locally in Vallebron, Leuven, and Gemelli. And then the learnings of this algorithm in the updates are shared on different hospitals, feeding a global AI model that after the prospective validation and proof of concept validation is going to be deployed in a platform for patients and healthcare professionals, which is NORA. What is NORA? NORA is a digital platform created at the Vallebron Institute of Research, able to improve patient and healthcare professional communications, very efficient collecting outcome data, enhanced treatment adherence and risk factor control, and also can generate personalized care plans and also integrate information from wearable devices. So this is a project pathway. We are in the second year of the project. So after the retrospective part, data that is collected, harmonized, and standardized in different hospitals, creating this common data model and data management toolbox for data harmonization. We have in this part of deploying in the prospective part, this federated learning infrastructure, and we are going to collect prospectively the data. Then finally, we will have a trustworthy TrustStroke platform that is ready to be tested in a clinical proof of concept study for adoption in 4 European hospitals. And then with the final models validated in this proof of concept part, this model will be deployed in NORA for clinical use. And that's all for my part. Thank you very much for your attention.
Wonderful. Thank you, Carlos. Very interesting. And it's fascinating to see how complex the care pathway really is and how many different touch points there are with the patient. And then obviously these data sources. Federated learning must be a good solution to that. But I can imagine it's also fiercely complex with the multi-omics requirements that you have as well. So when we go into the discussion session later, I'll definitely be asking more questions along those lines. However, right now, I'm going to ask Amedeo to help us bring up the next set of questions to the audience. So remember, audience, we need your brains. Please jump into the polls that Amedeo is about to share and tell us your feelings on these questions. So the term ML here is for machine learning, in case you don't notice. So do please take a moment to answer the 3 questions in the poll here. We would love to hear from you.
Anton, so well, I can keep this running while if you want to introduce Luigi or as you see fit.
Great idea. Okay, we'll keep the poll running for a moment. I'll introduce the next speaker, who I'm delighted to introduce is Luigi Serio, who's currently a principal scientist at the technology department at CERN in Geneva. And we've been working with Luigi already for a few years now and really, really enjoy the wonderful collaboration we have with the smart people over at the particle accelerator there. It's a pleasure to introduce you, Luigi, and it'd be very nice to hear from you really about the more technical side of federated learning and how it can apply and help the very data sensitive and privacy sensitive world of health research really advance machine learning training. Thanks. Please go ahead, Luigi.
Thank you, Anton. Hello, everybody. This is a great pleasure for me to introduce our activity, the organization CERN, and our activity in the field of artificial intelligence, and in particular of AI, for use in our organization, for our main project program, and in society. So CERN, first of all, is an international organization, was established on the 1st of July 1953, Science for Peace, on the aftermath of the World War II, and it was there to reunite scientist and researcher after World War II to work on the research for peaceful application. CERN is today the world's biggest laboratory for particle physics, is sitting on the shore of the Lake of Geneva in Switzerland. We see the picture there. And this facility extends over 27 kilometers, 100 meters underground, with several accelerators operating currently at full energy. There are 4 pillars that in CERN mission. The first one is basic research. Our main aim is to do basic research, but of course, to do basic research, we need to push the frontier of technology and innovation at the forefront. And to do this, we of course want to be very efficient, and we collaborate with several institutes, university, industry to be efficient and productive. Of course, we need to train and support from new generations. So the 4th pillar is education and training. CERN technological innovation have several applications that goes well beyond the physics and particle physics and research. The most well known is, of course, the CERN was the birthplace of the World Wide Web. But CERN technology innovation goes even farther in medicine and healthcare. And you see some picture for medical imaging, PET, cancer therapy, radioisotope production for research, and of course, artificial intelligence. CERN is a very large complex of accelerator. You see it here on the right, the complexity of the accelerator. First accelerator date from the 50s, and the latest in 2000 is the Large Hadron Collider, the most powerful accelerator. It's sitting in a 27 kilometer circumference, 100 meters underground, and generate a huge amount of data. Of course, CERN wants to optimize the operation. It wants to have the maximum reliability and sustainability of its activity for this very complex system of systems. Therefore, big data analytics and artificial intelligence are a useful tool nowadays to extract descriptive and predictive models to operate efficiently and reliably and sustainably our accelerator complex. With all this large amount of data that are created, there is a new paradigm that is now available, and for which CERN is using the outcome is the use of federated learning. As it was already introduced, federated learning allows to keep the data on edge devices or locally in a local computer and distribute models of parameter and knowledge across these devices. This for us is a very elegant and cost-efficient architecture, allow us to reduce computational power, optimize the computing, therefore minimize also the communication, the storage of data, and furthermore, not really necessary for us, but for other societal applications in healthcare, it can guarantee privacy, data protection, and model robustness. So why federated learning? Since the age of the CERN was born, and even maybe a decade before, there has been a constant increase of artificial intelligence development, applications, and use. And nowadays, in the last 5 to 10 years, we see that there are several ramifications that have brought new development application in the field in society. One of that is, in fact, federated learning that is now used in several fields and applications, and can be also find its way in application in the healthcare. Why federated learning? If we look at the ups and downs of artificial intelligence, we see that since the 50s, there has been a constant increase with the first AI winter, with a drop because of lack of resources and expectation, another increase, and another drop, so-called AI winter in the 90s. The constant increase was supported by big data availability, with large infrastructure for large data set, the hardware improvement and increase with architecture using GPUs, high massive parallel computing, and the software availability with the open source, improved techniques, and sophisticated toolboxes. But what are the risks of this last decade increase in artificial intelligence. The risks are the one that we had before: the data availability with constraint linked to the privacy of the data, the environmental impact of artificial intelligence with large computing farms and CO2 production, the regulation introduced to limit the risk of AI, and the long-term sustainability. So for this, at CERN, we started to work on a federated learning architecture for our own activities. This platform is very useful for us because, as I explained before, at the Large Hadron Collider, we have 4 large experiments and several equipment that generate a significant amount of data. These data are routinely transferred to be centrally stored and processed by machine learning algorithms to do prediction. But we imagine an additional potential using federated learning of minimizing this storage and this computing power. If you look at this challenge in the private and healthcare sector, we could see a very significant advantage. Instead of reunifying data in central storage spaces, data from hospital, we could use the same platform that is nowadays used for a CERN application to avoid this transfer and maintain the privacy. CERN application guarantee an authentication of the participating node with all the security required. The control center, the broker, and the parameter server initiate a process of experiment, providing a first model. This transfer to the different nodes participating to the experiment. And it does not exchange any data, it simply exchanges parameters of the model, like a function of the models. Once these are aggregated with the sophisticated algorithm, the final model is provided to the participating hospital, and this hospital can perform a research analysis by using the latest and most robust model that was trained without ever looking at this single data on the data available from several participants. How the platform is constructed? What is the architecture? We have a very secure federated learning platform based on the privacy by design. We use state-of-the-art CBF security that we deploy, and we use a solid methodology for treating, modeling, the risk assessment, the risk treatment. We have an example here on the right of the proposed first version of the platform for the TrustStroke project, implemented in the first nodes of the hospital participating to TrustStroke. And the security is based on encryption, secure authentication, based on CERN standards, access control, model versioning, monitoring and auditing, secure network architecture, and adversarial attacks defense. Furthermore, the architecture of the platform and the design of the platform allow for performances, flexibility, and customization. We went through an initial R&D program to a first proof of concept, and now we are providing the first minimum viable product with the version 1 for the TrustStroke platform. The platform allows usability, scalability, reliability with fault tolerances, and security to the network and model security, and performances. The platform allows flexible use of different aggregation algorithms that take into account accuracy, performance versus the label imbalance, the feature imbalances. What was the first proof of concept on which we based the work of the federated learning platform? This was done a few years ago with the first transfer into the medical application of our platform by using MRI images that were sitting in 3 different hospitals and tried to federate them through the use of a caffeine federated learning platform. You see here the schema that reproduces the prediction made by the platform. On the first line, you see the single node, if you were training the algorithm on a single node. And in the last 2, if the data from all nodes were used. In the bottom part, if all the data were put in a centralized system with a problem of privacy, and in the middle row, if we were using the federated learning platform. You see that at the end of the epochs, the production and the experiment, the prediction of a single node is much less accurate because of the lack of data, while the federated learning architecture using federated learning, not exchanging any data, has comparable results in terms of accuracy and performance within a few % of a centralized architecture. We went through first testing and validation into a clinical tool, and this was done with an hospital university clinical hospital in Athens and the University of Brno, where we use the application and the tool to screen brain pathologies with MRI images via the Federated Learning platform. This was to reduce, as Carlos was mentioning, the workload for radiologists. And we see here that the Federated Learning clients platform reached performances well above a single client, so if with more data, and at the same level or above a public data set trained on the BRADS model. TrustRock, this has already been introduced. This is our first minimum viable product and user platform in a clinical setting and for long-term analysis of data and producing models to assist clinicians into the assessment of disease progression of stroke and the risk of occurrence. It is based on an architecture that I presented before. The first version is available now in the first node of the hospital. And it will produce results in the coming months for clinicians to analyze while using large data set and not exchange with privacy concern this data. What other further development do we have in the pipeline and are doing at the moment? We are working with the Federated Learning platform and algorithm used for the accelerator for a project called Stella, to have a AI-powered operation, maintenance, and diagnostic of a linear accelerator. And this is to allow the design and the operation of a robust, affordable radiation therapy treatment system for challenging environment where the availability of expertise is lacking. Furthermore, we are working also with the Institute of the International Agency for Research on Cancer, IARC, and the EPIC dataset with more than 500,000 patients to apply AI algorithm and federated learning to increase the availability of data with privacy maintained, to change the methodology for breast cancer screening to a risk-based approach to avoid overdiagnosis, overtreatment, and optimize the clinical support. And finally, one of the most significant development that we are introducing is the use of caffeine federated learning with IoT devices, edge devices that will allow the direct acquisition of data, the processing of data on the IoT and the direct devices, and the model aggregation via federated learning without even having the need of exchanging this data with the local repository and then with the caffeine federated learning platform. This was successfully tested at CERN, and it will be in the future implemented in the medical field. So as my last slide, what is the impact of federated learning and what are the remaining challenges? I hope that I show that federated learning supports an efficient, privacy-preserving, and cost-effective use of AI platforms across academia, industry, and healthcare. And this allows, at the same time, to improve the model robustness with large untapped data that could not be shared before. Federated learning integration in IoT devices with this development, we will further enhance the privacy, robustness, security, and sustainability of the AI processes. As mentioned lately by the Financial Times in September, big AI companies are locked in the race for market share and profit maximization. And as we see, new regulation, the European Act and the US safety bill pose some risk for small and medium enterprise and academia, and in particular those that are relying on open source for the sustainability of their development. Therefore, to maximize innovation while maintaining robustness and security, a flexible, risk-based, and scalable approach would be suitable. And this should balance between an open source contribution from SME and academia and the leveraging expertise of well-established nonprofit organizations through proprietary frameworks.
Luigi, thank you very much. Very interesting, and congratulations on the fantastic development of caffeine. I have one question from the audience. I think that it would be interesting to talk about now, which is the aspect of explainability in AI. Obviously, the AI Act and the legislation talks about being able to explain how machine learning algorithms come to decisions, especially when it may impact human health. And the question is, does this platform consider explainability? Or is that something that's more for the actual algorithm developer themselves to be able to build that into their process? How would you view that?
Okay, so the explainability is part of the algorithm that will produce the model. So it depends on the algorithm used. This platform allows a flexible use of different type of algorithms, also algorithms that allow the explainability, so it can be implemented. And actually, we already implemented in the brain pathology field some algorithm to explain the choice or the decision taken by the algorithm to give a severity of a stroke based on an explainable model.
Super clear. Thanks a lot, Luigi. Appreciate that. Really appreciate it. Okay. We're going to, in a moment, dive into a panel session, but we're first going to test the audience one more time. So, in fact, maybe even 2 more times. So I'm going to ask Amedeo to drop the next set of questions, please. We'd like to hear from you again, what your feelings are about federated learning. Going to give you a minute to start answering that. We'll keep the poll up, and then we'll start also the panel session as well. But let's give folks a minute just to look at the questions and focus a bit on the questions and answer the questions. And then I'm going to start directing some questions to the panelists.
I'll also keep the poll open so
Great.
that
yeah,
while we're talking, people can still fill it up.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, let's kick off the panel session, because I think that's going to be the most interesting part. So again, thank you all very much to the speakers. First question, I'm going to throw towards you, Luigi, specifically, because there was a question already early on, asking the question, why develop your own FLNet framework when there are available options such as the NVIDIA Flare and the Flower system? So the classical question, make or buy, why did you choose make?
Okay, so I hope I gave some of this information in my last slide that I shown, but if I can summarize, first of all, we needed a platform anyway for our own application, tailored and customized for our own application. And then maybe the question would be, why with your platform would you enter into the market where there is already player like NVIDIA with Flare and Flower that recently joined forces? So the answer to that is that we are complementary. What is done by CERN and what is done by Flower and NVIDIA are complementary product. In our case, we can offer a solution that is robust, is scalable. He works on the architecture and the infrastructure, secure infrastructure of CERN, and with a backup of organization that can manage and operate this into a product that is a non-profit organization, so with no conflict of interest. With regards to other platform, and if you want to mention Flower or NVIDIA, there is the advantage that I recognize, for example, flexibility, the open source that allow to be flexible enough for research purposes. So if I was a customer choosing, I would say that for a research environment, to be able to do work in a research, limited research, I would go for a flexibility. And for a product that I want to implement into a clinical trial or in a clinical environment, I will look maybe less flexibility and more robustness and backup by an infrastructure.
Super. Clear, Luigi, great answer. Thanks very much. Right, okay, Carlos, if I may, your talk really showed the fierce complexity of the healthcare process, and then of course on top of that you have the challenge of trying to do multi-site research. So when you came up with the idea of TrustStroke and you approached firstly your organization and then clinical partners, where were the biggest challenges in terms of resistance? People saying, you're crazy, we can't do that.
Well, mainly the biggest challenge is to align all clinical centers in the same approach from the IT perspective. So we're actually still struggling with our own IT system. So you can imagine how complex it is to align all the clinical partners on the same strategy. So each hospital, they have their own strategy. They are not so convinced to that this federated way of training algorithm is secure enough. But at the end of the day, they realize that it is the safest way to keep the data in the hospital, so the data never leave the hospital, it stays there. So we have two different servers, the local servers and the federated server. And actually, in trust stroke and in future project, we learn that we need this IT team. So I think that a common team to share experience, to share what are the barriers and hurdles to integrate the data and to safely create these servers with all these security measures to avoid leakage, data leakage, and also this track back and, expose the data to malware. But I think as Luigi explained pretty well, so the security of federated learning for training algorithms, so are the outputs the one that travels from one hospital to other. No, the data is the major strength of this approach. And at the end of the day, it took us long to convince all the clinical partners that in this approach, IT departments in particular, but at the end of the day, so the evidence is so compelling that this is the way to train algorithms in the decentralized way that they accept all of them. And now it's easier for future projects. We know what is the way to go to get approvals, and the legal barriers for sure, the main limitation to deploy this kind of projects.
Interesting. So that leads to another question from the audience. Is about validating that each node is sharing the same features into the for training the algorithm. So that's, I guess, the clinical question. Are the same things being looked at, and is that being translated into the same data points that where it's harmonized across the nodes? So what's the most challenging part? Is it the clinical harmonization, or the data, or both?
Both, I would say. Actually, the data, we need to start digging into retrospective data, which is tough. We also have the usual suspects variables that is common, collected in all data sets. But also, when you train algorithms in these different data sets, you need some harmonization and standardization. Some of them are not collected in some hospitals. So in the case of a stroke, we are lucky that most of this data is there. So it's findable. So you can find the data even in a retrospective way. But still, harmonization is tricky. I think it's the basis of that. We need not only high volume of data and diverse data, but also high quality data to fit the algorithms. Otherwise, for the prospective part, it's easier, because we know what are the variables we are going to collect prospectively. But the tricky part is the prospective. That's why selection of centers for this kind of projects is important, to have a conversation about what are the data you really have, what are the how back we need to go 2 years, 3 years of retrospective data to have reliable data that can be useful for training the algorithms in the retrospective way.
Clear. Thanks, Carlos. I invite anybody just to shout out when you have something additional to that question or any other question. Otherwise, I'll just move on through the questioning. I'll move to Sara. Sara, please, in your experience. So EATRIS, we're a support organization for researchers, right, and clinicians. So people come to us, they're busy formulating a project, and they need our help in creating a consortium. And we work with a lot of academics to that end. What, in your experience, are the traditional challenges that the academics are bringing to us, the weakest parts of their proposals that we can help them with, that help them to really have a robust patient-centric proposal?
Oh, okay. Well, actually, I'm happy to have this question, because I can, let's say, put myself in the pool of, let's say, in the target of the question, basically. So I was a scientist a few years ago, and my background is science. So also I manage a lot of projects with academic driven. So I think also from my perspective, sometimes in projects we are missing the long-term perspective. So basically we have projects, we have amazing science, great science behind. They hold a lot of potential, but they lack of long-term vision, and especially in terms of intellectual property, how you can protect what actually you are producing, because it's something that is innovative and would impact society, but also they lack of regulatory roadmap. And this is something extremely important to take care of, because having, let's say, a regulatory by design research approach is always it's a winning strategy, because you can, of course, relying on specialized expertise, you can plan your research to accordingly, and you can make each step of your product development process compliant to regulatory requirements. And also lack of the multi-sectoral collaboration, as I was explaining during my presentation. So at some point, you will need to bring your technology to the end user, and you may want also to understand what is the real need there. But I think also our let's say our role is really to support those projects in funding their own way to success, and we are very happy to collaborate with academic researchers and educate them in better understanding what are the specific features that a project should have in order to be successful and impactful.
Thanks, Sara. Brilliant. Then I'll move over to you, Hanno, please. So in your experience, obviously, this is a very research heavy topic. You need access to a lot of patient data in order to formulate the AI-enabled solutions. Now, traditionally, a lot of institutions can still be quite hesitant about sharing patient data with companies, and obviously informed consent remains a challenge in Europe. Do you see that changing? How is the field evolving to that end?
Actually, I see it getting even stricter. So we now, since 2018, have the GDPR in effect in Europe, and that actually makes it really, really difficult. So in the past, we usually would enter a research collaboration with a clinical partner, and within or part of this research collaboration would have been sharing of patient data. So of course, this would be anonymized, so by no means would we ever find out who the patient was. And also the hospital could ensure that the patient has given their consent. So they would ask the patient to sign a form before or after treatment, and then ultimately, so if the patient just agreed to this information being shared with anyone else, so that it can be used for research, and we would be covered by that consent form. Nowadays, this is a completely new situation. So the GDPR actually allows the patient to withdraw their consent at any point in time. And so therefore, this makes it very, very difficult for the hospitals, in essence, for our clinical research partners to acquire such a consent. And therefore, because they ultimately would be made liable, or could be made liable by the patients, because the hospital would have quote unquote shared off their, or sold off, has sold off their data to an industry partner. And of course, this is nothing the hospitals want, but also nothing we want. So therefore, for us, federated learning can really provide a way out of that dilemma, which we're currently facing, because obviously we need access to patient data to train our algorithms. And so therefore, actually, federated learning could be a good solution to that, because it preserves the privacy. It makes sure that the data doesn't have to be transferred anymore, because that would also usually happen. So we would store the data on our own IT infrastructure. So therefore, it promises quite a bit. So we are in the process of trying this out, and are actually quite hopeful and also confident that this can help also our internal research and development activities.
Super, thanks. And Carlos, to you, the same question actually from the clinical perspective. Obviously, you probably have a lot of pressure from corporate legal about privacy, GDPR, compliance, these kinds of things, and consent. So what for you is the outlook now in terms of being able to collaborate with industrial developers or sharing data in a safe way?
So from the clinical perspective, it's the same. So from clinical partners, and also including partners, the industry. So this, we say aggregate data is okay. The problem is not the data itself. Aggregated data on the outputs are fair to be shared in the consortium, not only including public and private partners in general. So there is no concern that way. So they are actually in the federated scheme, the federated learning scheme, when you need some developers to dig into your data. This is an external partner that we need an special agreement with this external partner, the one who is in charge to develop and identify the algorithm, create the algorithm, digging in the data, in the local data, the local algorithms. So we need a special agreement. This is the only part that they need this agreement. Otherwise, there is no access to the data at all. So just aggregated data is different. Actually, we have visualization approaches in projects. And the idea is that all partners have access to this aggregated data. Everybody can check and how is the data going, the project going, different use cases, different scenarios that you can explore, aggregated data in the consortium, but not outside the consortium. So this is fair. This is valid, and our legal department is agreeing that.
Super. Thanks, Carlos. And Luigi, so the CERN Federated platform is, as we can see from the TrustStrong project and others, you're open to collaboration. So what are your ambitions? And if somebody here in the audience would actually like to chat with you about utilizing the platform for their own research, how would they get hold of you?
I think we are available for collaboration to participate to other projects, and definitely there is let's say an economy of scale. The more we increase the number of interested participants, again maintaining what I said before, the complementarity for research and implementation between available product, the more available this would be. CERN is anyway thinking at the moment what is the role of CERN to provide to society technology development, and this federated learning platform with the advantages that can bring of having a back on the back an infrastructure already present, methodologies and developments could be part of a larger scenario in Europe, where we are talking at the moment about AI implementation and AI organization. So for any activity that would require the use of federated learning, they can contact me directly or our knowledge transfer office, and we will certainly analyze all our proposal. We are definitely interested for non-profit or societal implementation. In few words.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Luigi. And there's a question from somebody in the audience about the cost. I mean, it's obviously this is not a cheap hobby, right? And so the question is about how can these costs be addressed? And I think the simple answer, Cecilia, is that it's not easy. You have to form a consortium and apply for the large funding pots that are available through European Commission or your national funders. That's how we've done it with TrustStrong project and others. And so the question is being able to find, firstly, obviously, if you've got a great project, a great clinical hypothesis with a real unmet need, you can take the opportunity to find open funding calls and apply for the funding. It's competitive, it's challenging, but you need to put together a world-class consortium, and you can be successful, like, for instance, TrustStrong has been. I think Luigi is available for collaboration. You'll probably find partners that are available. EATRIS certainly is available for helping form that kind of consortium. So it's not easy, but if you've got a great scientific hypothesis and a real patient need, then you're already halfway there. Okay, Hanno, I have one question for you regarding the AI. So you were talking about elements of that whole stroke dashboard, right? Also being quite AI enabled. Does that imply that the AI is still learning, or are you putting a CE marked product into the clinical workplace that is frozen? It's not learning anymore, because I know with this regulatory process of CE marking, right? They're validating it at a certain point in time of its training, and if it continues to train, they can't predict what's going to happen. So how does Siemens handle that with the products that they bring into the clinic?
So normally what happens is when we develop a product and when we release it to the market, it is getting a CE label, as you say, or for example in the US it's called an FDA release. But in any case, what we have to provide for that is certain clinical documentation, meaning that usually this is clinical studies which are being done, where together with a clinical partner, we test the algorithm and we certify within this publication that in fact the algorithm as it is right now is working and is actually producing a correct result. So this is part of the application process, and therefore then we can certify that yes, the given algorithm as it is in this version does work with this percentage of accuracy. In case we wanted to refine the algorithm, this would happen again. Let's say we would go back to the drawing board and we would refine and retrain the algorithm. So for every release which we plan to bring out to the market, we will have to hand in additional documentation, new clinical proof points, which actually certify that in fact the algorithm is working as it is planned to be released.
So you update the application to the regulators. It's not a completely new regulation, but it's updating with new information.
Yes.
Very interesting. Okay, thank you. So Luigi, that implies to me that federated learning in this circumstance, is needed for the research process, but it's not a clinical tool, right? So the CERN federated learning platform is not designed to be part of a clinical decision-making infrastructure. Is that correct?
This is the way that we work today, also not only with federated learning, but with the tool that we provide to healthcare professionals. Is a tool to corroborate, to support the decision. Federated learning is the same thing. It will provide the models that can be used. And once they are validated in a clinical environment, then they can be considered as a medical tool. Yeah. This is also the most efficient way to proceed.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Luigi. Okay, now I think we have a couple of closing questions. We'd love to hear from you on how this webinar has impacted you. So Amedeo, if I could ask you to throw up the final questions there and invite the audience to answer that, please. That would be very helpful to us to understand more. Yep, it's up. Thank you. And I'm going to have one final question to Carlos as an inspiration to those on the call today. If somebody would be trying to put together a project similar to TrustStroke, where obviously you've got a challenging clinical question, but also a challenging project process, what would you say, what would be your advice on be wary of, or the things they need to watch out for when putting together a project like TrustStroke?
So coordinating a project like this or be a partner in a project like this, you have to keep in mind that this is not only the need, the idea, but also you have the solution in mind. You have a lot of partners. You have to take into account also the regulatory partners, not only technological partners. Ideally, if you are able to involve the payer in the solution, is the smart movement in a way, in the different ways. So if they can contribute with the solution from the very beginning, it's a good strategically, but because at the end of the day, if you have products, so they can accept the solution as part of the portfolio because they were part of the conception of the whole thing. So this is my advice. So look at the idea, because physicians, we always try to be focused on the technological or solution for the problem, but it's much more than that. We need other partners or different visions. You need not only clinical partners to have different data sets, a variety of data sets, but also you need regulators and to build up, as I mentioned, this robust IT infrastructure and IT team to make this kind of projects possible and then put in place quickly. And also the regulatory part is important, and take into account the IP regulation also from the very beginning, from the scratch. Otherwise, you start something that is like no end. That's important in the vision at the beginning of a project like this.
Wise words, Carlos. Thank you very much. Very clear feedback. This has been very, very interesting, folks. Thanks very much. Real big thank you to Sara, to Carlos, to Luigi, and to Hanno, and of course to Amedeo for supporting this, and to you, the audience, for engaging us. It's been very helpful for us to also learn the state of play in Europe around federated learning and where the field is. With this, I think I'm going to close here and wish you all a great afternoon. And thanks again to all the speakers for joining us. Take care. See you.